listen up. I'm giving your $3 million family home to my parents, all right? John taunted, dangling the keys to my childhood home. Hold on. Where did you get those? Borrowed them from your key case. No big deal, right? I couldn't contain my anger watching John dodge my attempt to snatch the keys back, flashing that smug grin. No way, that's not... Enough, Nancy. The daughter-in-law is supposed to give her assets to her husband and his parents. Richard, my pompous father-in-law, interrupted me. Catherine, my mother-in-law, joined in. Absolutely, Nancy. Give it up already. John and my in-laws were eyeing my family home, filled with precious memories of my late dad. This is just too disrespectful. I clenched my teeth, trembling with rage. I'll teach them a lesson, I swear. 5 days later, John and my in-laws, who had moved into their family home, would face a shocking truth. My name is Nancy. I've been married to John for 20 years. We live with our son Brian, who just started college this spring. I have a fulfilling job, and life has been good, except for one issue. One afternoon, the home phone rang. It was Catherine. Hello, Catherine. What's going on? Hi, Nancy. We received the birthday flowers, but... Great, they got there safely. Sending just flowers. That's really not enough, you know. Even Richard says you're being thoughtless. What? How about a brand name bag next time? Just send an extra gift card for now. Make it $200. I can't believe... Do it within 3 days. Bye. She hung up. My in-laws live 2 hours away and have been demanding money, which is really troubling. Hey, John, Catherine wants a gift card. Says the flowers aren't enough. Just send it, Nancy. Be considerate. John mumbled, glued to his mobile phone. He's been away a lot recently and hardly talks even when he's home. He defends his parents but never stands up for me. Just then, Brian spoke up. Mom, let's get the gift card when we visit Grandpa. I'll go with you. Thank you, Brian. My 18-year-old son is sometimes rebellious, but has grown into a sincere and kind young man. That's my saving grace. Brian and I went to visit my dad, who is battling cancer and has been in the hospital for quite some time. Originally, my dad took over my grandfather's business and worked hard all his life. When I was in middle school, my mom passed away. Since then, my dad raised me as a single father, never remarrying. For me, my dad was someone I couldn't thank enough. He always adored Brian since he was little, and Brian loved Grandpa too. Ah, Nancy, Brian, you're here. Dad, how are you feeling? As usual. Brian, how's college going? Grandpa, I'm studying hard. I talked a bit with my frail-looking dad, who seemed to be in discomfort. When Brian left the table for the restroom, Dad spoke to me. Nancy, I don't think I have much time left. I've decided to let a subordinate take over the business. But the house? I understand, Dad. Don't worry. Just focus on yourself. Hearing my words, Dad smiled, as if relieved. I knew time with Dad was running out. My heart ached, and I had to fight back tears. See you, Grandpa. I'll come again. Dad, call me immediately if anything happens. All right. See you. That turned out to be our last conversation. 3 days later, Dad's condition worsened, and he passed away. I was devastated, and Brian comforted me, tears streaming down his face. But there were things I had to do. Being Dad's only child, I had to organize the funeral. The funeral was held at our family home. As a beloved businessman, many came to mourn Dad, keeping me busy. In the midst of it all, John was playing on his phone, doing nothing. I was already resigned to his lack of attentiveness. Still, thanks to Brian and other relatives, we managed to get through the funeral. After sending off the mourners and about to start cleaning, my parents-in-law came rushing over to me. "Ah, Richard, Catherine, thank you for today." Well, I thanked them. Catherine said while looking around, "Well, it's fine, but Nancy, I haven't been here since the family meeting, and your home is still so luxurious." Indeed, our family home is impressively opulent, standing in a prime location with 10 bedrooms, a pool room, and a sports court. Before I stepped into the real world, I didn't realize how extravagant it appeared to others. Since inheriting it from my grandfather, Dad has always taken great care of it.
"I heard from John. Is it really worth $3 million?
Caught off guard by Richard's excited tone, I dodged the question. "Who knows?" "Do you have any siblings, Nancy?" "Yeah, I don't. Why?" Hearing that, my parents-in-law and John seemed delighted and left. I felt uneasy, but had to quickly return to my busy life. Fast forward 3 months later. With Dad's memorial service over and the inheritance settled, I finally had a moment to breathe. Then, out of nowhere, John brought our parents-in-law to the house. "Richard, Catherine, what's going on? And you're here too, John." My parents-in-law smirked and sat on the sofa, looking at my flustered expression.
"Listen up, Nancy. I'm giving this house to my parents."
"Excuse me?" I was so shocked by John's sudden announcement that I looked at him with a dumbfounded expression. Then John waved something in front of my face. "Hold on, where did you get that?" It was the key to my family home, attached to a key holder Dad gave me.
"Borrowed it from your key case. No big deal, right?"
As I tried to take the key back, John dodged me with the same smug smile. Angry and frustrated, I shouted, "Are you kidding me? Give it back!"
"Oh, you're defying your husband."
"This can't be allowed. Plus..." My words were interrupted by Richard, who sat arrogantly.
"Nancy, you're being persistent. As a daughter-in-law, it's your duty to give the property to your husband and his parents."
Catherine also chimed in with a nasty smile. "Exactly. Just give it up." Overwhelmed by their audacity, I looked down, and John spoke with a triumphant tone.
"We're moving next week. If you have complaints, leave."
They were claiming my family home, filled with memories of my late dad. This was beyond disrespectful. Fury trembled within me. I trembled with anger and gritted my teeth. I'll teach them a lesson. Ignoring my glaring, John and parents-in-law joyfully discussed renovations and room assignments.
"Mom, can you come over here?"
It was Brian who tapped my trembling shoulder. "Brian, not now."
"I have something important. Come with me."
He tugged at my arm and took me to his room. The story he told was enough to stir my resolve. That night, taking advantage of John's drunken sleep, Brian and I packed our stuff and left the house. 5 days later, on the day my parents-in-law had planned to move, I stood at the front door of my family home. John's car pulled up, followed by a large moving truck. John and my parents-in-law got out, smirking as they approached.
"Oh, Nancy, you're here. Resisting now is futile."
John dangled the keys in front of my face, grinning unpleasantly. Richard crossed his arms and looked on.
"Regretting giving up this mansion? Too late. It's our home now."
Catherine gazed dreamily at my family home. "Ah, I can't wait to move in. Let's get inside." I stood there silently, watching them.
All right, let's go in, shall we?
John eagerly inserts his keys into the front door lock, but the door doesn't budge.
Huh, that's weird.
John jabs the keys into the lock multiple times. Then a man's voice comes from the doorbell speaker.
Who is it? What's going on here? Who are you?
John yells, clearly agitated. The front door opens from the inside, revealing a tall, middle-aged man.
I own this house. What's all the commotion?
John turns to me.
Nancy, what is the meaning of this?
This isn't your house. You know, it actually belongs to William now.
What?
With a shocked expression on his face, I explained to John. Originally, this house belonged to my grandfather. When he passed away, his sons, my dad and uncle, both inherited the house. My uncle, who was out of town for work, asked my dad to look after the house. So my dad did just that, while raising me, meaning now that my dad is gone, the house solely belongs to my uncle. I never had any rights to inherit it from the get-go.
So the house is now in my name. I changed the locks after hearing from Nancy that the keys were stolen. Stolen? That's a nasty way to put it. I lent the keys to Nancy. Taking them without permission is considered theft, even between a married couple. Breaking into someone else's house just adds to the crime.
My uncle calmly lays out the gravity of the situation to a fumbling John. John and my parents-in-law stand there, looking stunned.
Nancy, you knew.
Of course I did. I've always been close with my uncle, and my dad told me many times before.
Why didn't you say so earlier?
Richard yells, and I reply with a cool expression. Who was it that jumped to conclusions about renovating the place before I could explain? That would be you guys. John and my parents-in-law started to blush and tremble.
Then give us the inheritance you got from your father. It must be several hundreds of millions of dollars.
John becomes confrontational, and my parents-in-law are also in line with this. Exactly. Use that money to buy us a new house. That's the least you could do as a daughter-in-law.
That's right. Until then, let us live in your apartment.
Both John and his parents are making a racket. Ignoring them, I say with a sarcastic smile. I decline. I'm divorcing John. John's face turns even redder with outrage.
You're running away with the money, aren't you? You're not getting away with it.
A calm voice interjects.
Enough, Dad.
Everyone turns to look at Brian, who has emerged from the back of the house.
What? Brian? You were here?
John's tone suddenly changes, filled with surprise.
Dad, just divorce Mom quietly. You're cheating on her, aren't you?
As he looked down at his father, Brian speaks quietly. John's face turns pale.
So I saw you and some strange woman, arm in arm, leaving the hotel the other day. I even took a picture. You've got to be kidding. You saw me?
Brian holds up his mobile phone, and John looks at him panicked. My parents-in-law gaze at John, disbelief in his eyes.
You were following us, and you heard me telling her about her soon-to-be mansion and leaving my current wife?
Well, you're ready to throw away our family for some fling and take the stuff Mom inherited from Grandpa?
We don't need a dad like you.
Brian's words hit me right in the heart. But John snaps back at him.
Hey, Brian, have you forgotten who raised you? Both you and Nancy are so disrespectful.
My parents-in-law quickly agree.
Exactly. What's the big deal about a little affair?
The real problem is Nancy's lack of appeal. That's part of being a wife. Turning a blind eye. William interrupts the three with a stern voice.
Enough. We've got enough evidence. There's no escaping this. What are you even talking about? You're irrelevant. Stay out of it.
John glares at William, visibly shaken. Then, I drop the bomb. He's not irrelevant. I've handed the matter over to William.
What? Hand it over.
He's a divorce lawyer. We're going to take you for everything you've got, so brace yourself. John and my parents-in-law's faces turned pale. I continue pressing my advantage. Moreover, the apartment is in my name. I've been paying the mortgage. You're going to have to leave, like it or not.
You can't be serious. Where are we supposed to live?
John blurted out, followed by my parents-in-law.
So we sold our house, and we didn't get much for it.
Abandoning us? Are you, you heartless wife? I shot them a cold stare. You did this to yourselves. Figure it out now. Brian, William, let's go inside. As I said this, my parents-in-law started to turn on John, and the three of them began an ugly argument. If you don't leave right now, I'll call the cops. Finally, I headed inside, and after a moment, all became quiet. The sound of the moving truck faded into the distance.
Mom, that was rough.
Catching our breath in the spacious living room, Brian and William tried to console me, but all I could do was give a wry smile. Fast forward 3 months. John and I finalized our divorce. Thanks to William's hard work, we secured a hefty settlement in the divorce court from both John and his affair partner. When the divorce was finalized, I couldn't help but show a sigh of relief. William turned to me and said,
"You did good."
Turns out John was in a financial mess after the divorce settlement, and even his affair went sour. John and his parents, now homeless, hurriedly rented a cramped apartment. According to neighbors, they can't stop fighting every night. They brought this upon themselves. Hopefully, they'll learn from their greed. It may be impossible for those people. As for me, although I didn't inherit the house, my dad left enough for Brian and me to live comfortably, and I have a job. Life is actually good. William and Brian have become fast friends, and Brian, who is studying law, is eager to become a lawyer like William. Looking forward, I'm excited to see Brian grow and to live a fulfilling second act of my life.